Hello friends and foes, my name is Cait and this is my channel Chapter Cait. And today I'm going to be talking about my 5 okayest adult books. Before we get into that, I just want to let you know I have merch now, just because I wanted to. I have 5 different designs. One is just hello friends and foes, you can see it right here. I also have this design which says I forgot to let out the breath I didn't know I was holding. I have Cash Money Melodica Solo. I have To Be Wrecked, and I have a Gothlet Club t-shirt. You can find all of these on my Teespring, which you will find a link to in the description of this video. And now on to the video. So what classifies as one of my okayest books? Well, it's not great. It's not like rage-inducing. I might still recommend it to someone if it fits their interests, but personally I'm just like, about it. There are a lot of books that I have that are kind of just like, and I wanted to kind of divide them up, so in this video I'm going to be talking about specifically adult books. And these aren't classics either. I will be doing the top 5 okayest YA books video, and I will be doing an okayest classics video. I might do a graphic novel one, but I don't know. Haven't decided yet. These are books that I probably either rated a 2 or a 3. I don't rate a lot of books low. I usually rate books higher, and the reason for that is if I don't find it intriguing, I usually am just like, well, I don't want to read that anymore, and I end up never finishing it. It's not like it's always a conscious decision not to finish it. It's often I just couldn't finish it. Those kind of books don't really end up on these kind of lists because I didn't finish them. So these are 5 books that I have finished. I did read. I had hopes for, because I have hopes for all the books I read. But yeah. The first book I'm going to be talking about is Dune, and this is by Frank Herbert. So my thing with Dune is that I gave it a high rating when I first read it, but since then my thoughts on it have changed. So Dune is a space opera. I'm just going to read you the synopsis really quick because it's really short. So in Dune, the main character's name is Paul. His family accepts stewardship over this planet of Arrakis. Arrakis is a place where you can find this element. I don't know if it's called melange or melange. I don't really know how it's pronounced, but it's also called the spice. And this thing can extend your life and do other stuff. So the book kind of covers themes of like how we handle natural resources, but also there's political themes in it and things like that. The main character's mother is the concubine to this duke guy, and she's trained Paul in sort of the ways of the Bene Gesserit. And Paul also has these weird prophetic dreams. If you like books that are heavily political, you might enjoy this book. It still has action and it still has some excitement to the plot. But personally, for me, the reason it's just kind of an okay book is because I'm not really into politics in books.
Hi, this is Editing Caitlin, and I just wanted to say that when I say I don't like politics in books, it doesn't mean that I don't like books that cover political themes. It means that I don't like when there's literal politicians in books, because I don't like politicians.
This is also a book that has like a large cast of characters, so if you like that and you're able to keep up with that really well when you read, then you might enjoy this. There's also these giant sandworms, which are like my favorite part of the book. There are a lot of criticisms about Dune that it draws elements of cultures and kind of mutilates them. I am not informed enough to know exactly what those elements are. However, if you are interested in learning more about that, I'm going to refer you to Fadwa. They are a booktuber. They also are really active on Goodreads and Twitter, and they took the time to actually explain why Dune is harmful. So I'm going to put a link in the video to their channel, their Twitter, and some of the threads that they've made about Dune and why it might be harmful. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is The Postmortal by Drew Magary. This is another one of those books where like nobody dies anymore. And the reason is because they basically came up with a vaccine for death. It's more of a cure for aging, but yeah. And with this comes a lot of corruption because we're human beings and we are at our very core garbage. I don't really believe that, but also people in power often abuse power. People get into power because they abuse power. There's just a lot of reasons that I might believe that. So some things pop up like these weird evil green people, government euthanasia programs where if you're sick or you're older, they just kind of do away with you. And also a disturbing religious cult. The reason this is on my okayest books list is because the main character like doesn't have personality at all. And women are described in kind of a gross way, which it just gets on my nerves. Like it's just very distracting from the actual story. This book has all the makings of something interesting, and I've heard that Drew Magary has some interesting books. However, I just didn't. I was never like pulled in. I was kind of bored the whole time. But if you're someone who really likes dystopian books, especially with kind of weird elements, then this might be right up your alley. I also just realized that I grabbed 6 books and not 5 books for this video. I'm only going to talk about 5 though because I don't like the number 6. And I have issues. So The next book I'm going to talk about is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I was so excited to read this because I love the show. It was so good. But the main character, Quentin, is a high school math genius. He is obsessed with this book series that takes place in like a magical world. And because of this, he's really, really disappointed with his regular old life. But to be fair, I was really disappointed with this regular old book and his regular old personality. Quentin is a high school math student, and he gets accepted into this really elite college of magic, and he kind of falls into a lot of things that kind of go against his morals typically. And it turns out that the land of his childhood fantasies is actually real and a lot darker than he'd ever imagined. It's very creative and inventive when it comes to the magic system and the world, and even the characters at times. But the main character, Quentin, is so bland. He's blander than a rice cake on a Sunday afternoon. Like the amount of flavor that you get in like communion wafers. But the thing about communion wafers is that you get to have grape juice or wine with it. And that has more flavor. Just like the rest of the book has more flavor than he does. My issue with this, the reason this is an okayest book and not a great book, is that one, the main character is stale. But two is the way that the female characters are described in the book is another one that just got on my nerves. You don't have to find all these sexual things about every woman that approaches. Like there was a scene where he's like at a diner and it described the waitress as being very sexy and having like a sexual jaw and like all these random things like that. And it was just like, and after like reading the back, it kind of makes sense because he's supposed to kind of fall into this hole of hedonism and disillusionment. I guess that would make him kind of hypersexual, but it's just so annoying. It just gets on my nerves and it's very distracting. But the world itself and the magic is very interesting. The next book is Elevation by Stephen King. This was my first Stephen King book because it was super tiny and I was like, I'll try it out just to get a taste of his writing style. And it was okay. That's why it's in this video. Basically, this guy starts losing weight. He doesn't lose body mass, he just starts losing weight. It's odd because it doesn't matter how many clothes he wears, his weight remains the same. I have a couple of things that just annoy me about Stephen King. Like, I loved the premise of this book. I thought it was very interesting. Stephen King, his personality annoys me, but also in this book, there's like a lesbian couple that lives down the street. And you know, we've heard of the white savior narrative, but this was like the straight savior narrative. It was weird. It was like they were facing all these prejudice and stuff, and he comes to the rescue, you know, which is, you know, that's fine, I guess. It was just really annoying. I haven't read much Stephen King, but I've seen a lot of adaptations of Stephen King's works, and there's something that Stephen King does that just has always bothered me. I understand why, but it bothers me. And there's always like an evil religious figure. And I understand a lot of people have bad experiences with religion and religious leaders. I'm a Christian and I've seen what my fellow Christians have done to people. And they've used the Bible that basically says to love other people, and they've used it as a reason to hate other people, which is counterintuitive. My difficulty with it is that it often pins religion against other groups, like marginalized races, marginalized identities, marginalized sexualities, things like that. And it seems to not account for the fact that people from those marginalized groups are also parts of those religions, and it kind of isolates those people. And that's why I have an issue with it. Other than that, it was okay. It was okay. It had an interesting concept. The characters were kind of dry, but the concept was interesting. And it was very short, but I knew it was going to be short going in. I just feel like there could have been something more to it, maybe. Just give me something more. I don't know. And then the last book I'm going to be talking about is Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I read this because I was trying to get into dark academia, and I still would like to get into dark academia, but this kind of turned me off of it. So the main character of this book is at this college, and he wants to study Greek, and he wants to be in this like elite group of these 5 students that study Greek and are all rich and full of themselves and very self-assured. He wants to be part of this group, and he somehow gets to be part of this group. Somehow finds his way in this inner circle here. And then they do something bad, and it's kind of a secret. The secret history. And one of the members of the group is kind of breaking down over it. And he becomes more and more of a threat to their secret. So they decide, oh, we probably need to kill that guy. And so the story is just filled with secrecy. This is a first-person narrative, and they are sort of confessing all their experiences. My issue with it is that it was just really, because there were secrets, but you kind of knew the secrets, it just didn't do it for me. You kind of always knew what was going to happen. Sometimes you think, oh, maybe I'm being led to think this is happening and something else is actually happening, but no. what you're being led to think is actually happening. I remember when I first talked about this book on my channel, I described it as like when you're sitting in a room with a television on and like it goes to something that you weren't really planning to watch, but you're too lazy to turn the channel. And you may have watched multiple episodes by this point and it gets kind of close to the end and you got to go somewhere, but you kind of want to see what happens next. But you're really not invested and you'd be fine with leaving and not finding out what happens next, but you're a little bit curious. That's how I feel about this book. It's just that show that got left on that you might be moderately curious about. But if you like books that have sort of a spooky atmosphere, kind of, with lots of secrets and with pompous jerks that are in college, then you might be all over this book. But for me, it was just okay. And those are my 5 okayest adult books. If you've read any of these books, let me know how you felt about them. Let me know what are some books that you thought were just okay. Maybe I need to check them out. Don't forget to check out my merch that's in the description of this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to let out that breath you didn't know you were holding. Bye! Tripping over shadows and I'm drowning in the night. I feel the soldiers coming, I'm putting up a fight. I feel my